It's about time. The C8 Corvette Z06. If you've already seen some of my other videos on this car, you'll know how much praise I've given this car, but it is not perfect. It does have its flaws, and so in this video, I'm gonna talk about the 3 things that I hate about this car. And by the way, as a side note, this is one of the hardest videos I've ever had to make in my life because Corvettes are just one of the greatest car brands of all time. But again, still, not perfect. I'm gonna explain why. Let's jump into it. All right, first complaint is certainly not going to be these animations you get in both the C7 and the C8s. It is so cool jumping in a Corvette because it just lets you know you're getting into something very, very cool. And, well, let's listen to that flat plane crank V8 start up. The startup of this car just vibrates your soul and your heart. I cannot believe Chevy went in this direction. 5.5 liter, 670 horsepower, flat plane crank V8 placed in the middle of the car. I mean, this is nothing short of a true supercar. But again, I don't want to be talking about all positive stuff in this video. This is about things that I hate. So let's go for a drive and I'll show you what I mean. This thing sounds just like a Huracan. It is absolutely unbelievable. I'm sure to the untrained person, they would easily mistake this for a V10, like a Lamborghini. You hear this thing coming down the road, you see this thing from a distance, and what is it, a McLaren, a Ferrari, a Lamborghini? It's a Corvette, and that is hard to accept. Which leads me on to the first thing that I hate about this car. Now, this is a tough one, but I'm sure some of you guys are definitely going to agree with this. Because of the C8 Corvette and the direction that Chevy has headed into with Corvettes at this point, it's really not a Corvette anymore. I mean, I know you guys agree with that because in videos that I've made comparing the C8 Stingray to the C7 Z06, almost all of you guys said that the C7 Z06 would be the Corvette that you would get. And the reason behind that, well, there's a few reasons, especially comparing the Stingray to the C7 Z06. I would love to hear which car you'd pick now, by the way. Would you get the C8 Z06 or the C7 Z06? Because that is a much, much harder decision. But the problem is, this design is gorgeous, right? From that perspective, it's a beautiful, beautiful looking car. But it looks nothing like a Corvette anymore. I mean, take the Corvette logos off and slap a Ferrari badge on there, or a McLaren badge, and you just wouldn't bat an eye on it. You'd think, oh, it's a supercar, it's a McLaren, it's a Ferrari. And you know, that's the one problem this car does have, is it does have the name Corvette attached to it, which, by the way, I think should be a very proud brand name to have slapped on your car. I mean, Corvette is arguably the best car brand of all time, ahead of every other car brand in existence. I say that because Corvettes of any generation offer you the craziest, wildest performance and driving experience for the money you have to pay to buy the car, with pretty acceptable maintenance costs and parts costs. That simply makes Corvette the best car brand in existence. And again, you could say no Bugatti is, no Pagani is, no Lamborghini is. Yeah, but the barrier to entry to get those cars is ridiculous. And then when you get the car, the cost to own it is even more ridiculous. So Corvettes have always just been that American supercar. Again, quotations used heavily there, but now it actually is a supercar. So is it, oh, by the way, let me turn on the heated steering wheel of this car. The amenities in this car are amazing. It's about 40 degrees outside, so yeah, I'm going to be using some of the comfort features that this thing has. It is an incredible car. But again, at the same time, it's just goodbye to Corvette. Hello, new era. It's the supercar era of Corvette. And if you're like, what does that mean? Why are you saying that? Aside from the looks, right? It's not just the looks, but it is the driving in this car. This thing, from the steering to the acceleration to the traction control to the cornering to the engine being in the back to the sound that the flat plane crank V8 makes, it is so much more refined than a C6 Z06 or a C7 Z06. Those cars are a lot more raw and rowdy, and they sound like America. This sounds like Italy. This drives like Italy. And not to attach a amazing car to a specific country, but just speaking from, you know, what you think of a certain car when you hear it or drive it. I mean, that's what the Italian cars are known for. They're known for that precise driving. Of course, you know, there's some representations of American cars like the Ford GT, which is an incredible driving experience. That represents America, obviously. But we're looking at Corvettes here, not supercars. And it just doesn't have that raw Corvette feeling or sound or look. And you know, I say that is amazing because of where this car has gone, and well, for reasons such as these. Wow. And we're not even touching on the cornering. That was just a simple straight line acceleration with hearing that flat plane crank V8 absolutely scream. And you, by the way, look in people's windshields and you'll see them looking at this car almost every single time. Which, you know, that leads me on to complaint number 1B, and that is, if you are somebody that likes that status, yes, you're going to get a lot of looks in the C8 Z06 or even C8 Stingray, but it's still not, it hasn't quite settled in as that supercar brand. You know, if you're looking for status, if you're looking for a ton of attention, if you want to look super rich, yeah, go buy a Lamborghini. That's not what the C8 is about. There's a lot more C8s. They're a lot more common. You see them at car shows a lot. You see them driving a lot. You don't see Lambos a lot. So, you know, but again, that's stupid to talk about driving a car from the perspective of, I just want to look rich. But if you are, I mean, we all like to look good. Let's be honest with ourselves, obviously, right? But if that's your main priority with buying a car, is looking rich and looking good and getting a whole bunch of attention, then you're going to get more of that in a Lamborghini. It's going to be rarer to spot a Lamborghini. So that's something to know. Now, the next thing I hate about this car is going to be, and as stupid as this is gonna sound, it's pretty much gonna refine the idea of how hard it was to come up with the things I hate about this car. The door sill is too big. It's hard to get out of this car. I'm not going to spend much time on that one, but it actually, if you are somebody that's older, it is very annoying getting out of this car. It's hard to get out of it. Even for me, it's like, it's uncomfortable stepping in and out of this thing. But it's a super car. You're going to make some sacrifices to drive something like this with this type of design. Now, the third thing I hate about this car, love it and hate it, but I'm going to mention the things that I hate about it, and that's the interior. So first of all, this is actually a really big one. The visibility in here is bad. Thankfully, this problem is solved. You can actually see out of the rear view mirror because it's a camera and not just glass. But look at how much space the B-pillar and the mirror take up. It's pretty uncomfortable when you're making a sharp right turn, and what's really bad is when you're switching lanes. You have to put absolute full trust in that mirror to make sure there's not somebody in your blind spot, because you can't look over and see your blind spot. It doesn't exist. So thankfully, with this thing having 670 horsepower, you can just do a quick little pull so you know nobody's in your blind spot. But if you're in a scenario where you can't really do a pull, or there's a cop behind you or in front of you and you have to quickly merge over to the right lane, yeah, that's your only hope is the mirror. And I've had several instances where I thought nobody was beside me because I saw nobody in the mirror, but there was. So that is a big trouble point in terms of visibility inside of the C8 Z06. And well, same thing applies for the C8 Stingray as well, obviously. And also on the interior, I like the screens, okay? I know some of you are like, I just want the analog style. I like old school, and hey, that's okay. I like the screens. I like being able to adjust everything and change the way I'm driving and be able to adjust the gauge cluster. I think that's all super, super cool. The one thing I don't like, I'll even mention it after we do a quick acceleration here. I will say, the second you do an acceleration, I love how I see every Mustang's head turn to look at this car. That's too funny. Hold on. 3, 2, 1, go. Oh my gosh. Yeah, another level. Now, it is cold outside, so the traction's not going to be that good. That may actually kind of add to the point that this car still is somewhat raw. But once the tires are warmed up, and if it's pretty warm outside, it's not going to be that rowdy and crazy. But it definitely still has that taste to it. Just the way the RPMs flutter as it gains traction is just identical to a 911. And the way the sound is with doing an acceleration and letting off that throttle and hearing those crackles for a second is identical to a Huracan. I mean, this is the combination of like every supercar designed into one to make it the best supercar ever. I just love this. Anyway, the third thing, 3B on the interior is, yeah, it's not analog, but this is just weird. I mean, if you're gonna go and press something, even if you've spent weeks and weeks with this car, you pretty much have to memorize where this stuff is. But even then, if you misclick, you could get it wrong. The buttons are super small, and you kind of have to take your eyes off of the road and look to your right to find what you're looking to press. So that is I would argue a very valid complaint with the interior of this car. And then I guess as a fourth thing that I hate about the C8 Z06, I mean, you're gonna end up doing this to yourself, but if you option for the GT2 bucket carbon seats, the side bolsters are really, really tight on you. I mean, I'm 175 pounds, 6 foot, 5'11", if I'm being honest. Even with me, I'm just a pretty average, maybe slightly above average, well, I guess weight, probably not in America. It's tight. The seats, the side bolsters are really tight on me. So if you're much bigger than me, then it's gonna be, the GT2 bucket seats are gonna be pretty uncomfortable, especially if you're driving for more than an hour. But if you are driving for sport-related purposes, then yeah, you're gonna want them. It's just, yeah, as a daily, I probably actually would not option for the GT2 bucket seats because it's going to be, it's tight. Trust me when I say that. And that's everything that I hate about this car. I mean, what ridiculous complaints, right? I would argue the only valid complaint I even made is the visibility. And even then, it's like they did what they could to fix that. And with the design and the engineering on this car, I mean, again, you're going to make some sacrifices here and there. I would rather have the looks of this car with a little bit worse visibility than something that's uglier with better visibility. If you do own a C8 Z06, drop down in the comments if there is anything you hate about this car that I did not touch on, because like I said, I've spent hours on, I've driven this thing for the past like 7-8 hours, and I just don't hate like anything other than that stuff. So man, that's a wrap, guys. I appreciate y'all for watching. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, whether you own a C8 Z06 or not. I just want to hear what you think about this car, and is there anything that you hate just based off of what you see and what you hear? It's really a hard video to make, but appreciate you guys. I love you all, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.